Hello, hello. Raees Mohamed here, founding partner of RM Warner Law, about to go live with a special guest today, Jess Pinili from Perth, Australia. Super excited to talk to her. She's doing some amazing things and really excited for you guys to get a chance to hear her story and to participate in our discussion here. How's everybody doing? Looks like we have Jess just about to join. Hey, Jess, how are you?
Hello, good. How are you?
We're doing great. We're doing great. How's it going over there in Perth,
Amazing.
Australia?
It's going good, going good. Just got back from the gym, just started my morning.
So it is, for those of you who are watching live and watching later when we record this, it's 6 p.m. Arizona time. And what time is it in Perth?
It is 9 a.m. Perth
N-
time.
9 a.m. and you've killed your gym routine for the day.
Yeah, exactly. It's done and dusted.
Are you one of those people that goes to the gym twice a day when you're not training anybody, like just for your own personal
No,
workout?
I used to be like that, but now I'm like, no, one workout, get it done in the morning, and then I'm good for the rest of the day.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm excited to have you and excited to talk about some interesting topics here.
Mm.
I know everybody who follows you knows who you are, but I would love for you to kind of give an introduction about who you are, your story, and the amazing empowerment work that you do.
Absolutely. So, for everyone that doesn't know me, I am Jess Pinelli. I am a female empowerment coach. I coach women all over the globe in mindset strategies, lifestyle concepts, and manifestation techniques. And my job really is to, what I've always said when I've started this business and I got into it, is to connect with someone to help them to reconnect with themselves. And I think it's so important to go within with a lot of the things and not be so superficial, because you see a lot of things out on social media, you hear a lot of things, you read a lot of things. And my job is to really hone in on the important things specific to that individual. Before this, I was a personal trainer for about 6 years. And I guess I made the transition because I felt there was so much more that I could offer and so much more that I could give to women, not just physical health. And yeah, slowly made the transition. So been doing this for about a year now and absolutely love it. Yeah, it's so rewarding.
So the actual sort of empowerment and the workshops and the training what that you do, um, who I think I know the answer to this question, but tell us who your primary demographic is that you work with.
So I work with females, and I would say the youngest I've worked with has probably been 19. The eldest is, oldest is a member in one of my membership platforms. She is 45. So we've got a big range of women and different age brackets, and I guess different backgrounds, different perspectives on life, which I love. And it's so interesting to work with such a different range of ages as well, not just from a perspective of learning for me, but also understanding like how women progress and what are the different triggers and things they want to work on as they progress throughout life.
And it's interesting because you talk about your demographic, and it's a young demographic.
Yeah.
These are young
Yeah.
female professionals who are maybe looking to up their game a little bit in terms of personal growth.
Mm. Yeah,
And
definitely.
I love the word empowerment, particularly female empowerment. And, I'm in the United States, so we've gone through an entire series of changes here in the last, 5 to 6 years
Yeah.
easily. And there's now going to be more women in Congress in the United States than ever before, which is super exciting for a lot of different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Um, you can't represent the United States if women don't have adequate representation, plain and simple, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's an exciting time. So for those of you who are listening who don't know about me, I'll just introduce myself briefly. I'm Raees Mohamed. I'm the founding partner of my law firm in Scottsdale, Arizona, called RM Warner Law. And so we're an internet law firm. So we represent entrepreneurs, influencers, e-commerce business owners, and we do, the transactional work. We set up the businesses, we help them scale, but we also do the litigation side, which is the darker side of the practice where unfortunately you have to sue or you have to take people to court. And sometimes my clients find themselves on the receiving end of a lawsuit. So we're all things internet, all things e-commerce. And I think my marketing person, Rachel, connected with you, and her exact quote was, you have to talk to Jess, right? Like, she's just the most amazing person. She's got an amazing following. She does great work. And she's all about women empowerment, right? And improving opportunities. And I thought that was great because one of the issues in my profession as a lawyer is it's still, for lack of a better word or phrase, an old white man's game, sadly. And I have no shame in saying that. And anybody who's a lawyer knows that in the United States and probably in Australia too. It's something about this profession. We don't encourage diversity as much as we should. We're disproportionately men and disproportionately old white men. And you can't, and if you think about it, lawyers are the ones who are making the laws. Lawyers are the ones enforcing the laws. Lawyers are the ones who are judging whether somebody did something consistent with the law. So we've got a problem here.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's so important to bring awareness around this. And I think with the way the world's going, there's definitely a lot more awareness that's getting brought to this. But at times, I often think that it's probably not enough. And I think there's been for so long, for as long as I can remember, I'm 27, for as long as I can remember, I guess a stigma that men should always be empowered, that men should always make the rules. And I'm not going to sit here and say, no, women should do it all, because I definitely believe there needs to be men in power and there needs to be women in power as well, equally. I definitely agree with that. But I think it's great that people like you and I break down that stigma. As much as my niche is women, right? As I've said, my niche is females. And as much as I stand for that, and that's what I want, it's also healthy and important from both sides, male and female, to understand that it's important to have men empowered as well, just as important as it is for female to be empowered. And I think, even with the women in my immediate network, with other influencers that are females that I've connected with, we've had these conversations. And I think it's so important to be able to have a voice as a woman and to be able to have a say as well.
So one of the things that I want to ask you about is how you built your business and your following. I'm super interested to know. It's very niche, and I think we have that in common. So tell me about your journey a little bit.
Yeah, so it's funny because when I first got Instagram, and then I became a personal trainer, this account was a more fitness dominated account, and then I had a personal one. And I remember as I started to get more into my personal training and posting more of my workouts, I was posting my food and all of that. I was like, oh, I really can't be bothered having 2 Instagram accounts. I'm just going to, and this one was a different name and it was called JP Fitness. And it started to get a bit more of a following. So I was like, I'll get rid of my personal account. I'll just focus on this one. And I just started to, I guess when I first began posting on Instagram, getting on my stories was a huge thing. Like now I'm quite confident, and I've had a lot of years experience behind that, but it was a really big thing for me. And I wanted to be able to share what I was doing throughout the day. I wanted to be able to share my views and see if like-minded people would connect. So I started to do that a lot more, and then eventually I changed it to the name it is now, Jess Pinili. And I think the biggest thing that has genuinely helped building a following, but I see it more as a community. Every single person, male and female, that follows me, like I love to see it as a community. And the biggest thing is being authentic. and being who I really am, and sticking up for myself, sticking up for my points of views. And I'm all for hearing different perspectives. But when I connect with the people that follow me, or when people follow me and message me, they say, you know, I love what you're saying. I love how raw and vulnerable you've been. I love that you've spoken about this topic, and I can't find anyone else. And I think that's the biggest thing. And not being, obviously, you know, Instagram is a bit of a highlight reel. And I always address that. Like I always say, you know, the photos that I post are the best photos that I've chosen from that day. You know, of course, that's a reality of social media. But I think, you know, I put a lot of time, especially into my captions that I write. That's something that's very near and dear to me. I love putting a lot of depth into them and being more authentic with that. And then when I get on my story, I found I've definitely made this transition. I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. I remember when I first used to get on my stories a few years ago, I used to get super nervous. I used to like do my hair and like get all perfect. And now I think people respond the best when I literally get on, like I did this one this morning. I finish at the gym. I'm a sweaty mess. I get in and I have it's about having conversation. It's about building relationships with people, and people enjoy when you're that true and you're that honest. And I think that's what's really helped build a following, but as I said, more so build a community. And that's important to me.
I think especially with female entrepreneurs, and we'll talk about how you add value to female entrepreneurs. I feel like that's extremely important, and it's a underutilized resource to have a sense of community of female entrepreneurs. But it's also something that we don't really have too many resources dedicated for, I feel like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a lot of your followers are from the United States, right?
Yeah.
They're from here.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, we don't tell those stories. And I can tell you countless females that I've spoken to who are CEOs, founders, co-founders, and they'll tell you the same story, which is, you know, I get laughed out of rooms because I'm a female, or I'm presenting something and people are like, although they don't say it with their words, their actions and what's implicit or tacit is almost like, hey, shouldn't you be raising kids? Or something underhanded like that, right? Or, you know, what this particular CEO was saying was that when she went to go raise money and she would pitch to these VCs, and it was always the demographic that we talked about, these old white dudes.
Yeah.
And she's like, this has got to change. I have a female-oriented product. How the hell are you going to understand the value that I bring, my ROI, when you don't use the product that I'm selling?
Yeah.
That's
so true.
Right? And so it's a story, but even in the scenarios where it is not a female-oriented demographic or marketplace, I still, even if it's technology, right? You know, the role of women in technology entrepreneurship is constantly undermined. And again, I hear the stories. Hey, I was up for this position, you know, and I wanted to lead this division, and I didn't get it. I got passed over for somebody that I feel like I'm more qualified than, just because I was a female.
Yeah.
Or, you know, nobody wants to take my product or my service seriously because of X, Y. I still feel like that's a problem. Do you hear those stories?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny, as you were speaking, I was thinking, I had a conversation this was only a month or so ago, had a conversation with a male who I met for the first time, and he was kind of asking what I did. And it's funny because automatically and I know I've had this conversation with other female entrepreneurs or business owners, where they kind of, especially if you work in the online space, right? This is still really new, where to some people it's like, wow, you can make money from your phone, you can make money online. And so sometimes I think subconsciously we actually downplay what we do. And a lot of the time, especially if I'm talking to other men, I will just say, oh, I'm an online coach, you know, downplay it. And I remember I started diving into what I did, and his response was literally, wow, that's really intimidating for a female. And I was like, my first thought was like, why? Because I own my own business, because I'm an entrepreneur, because I'm literally a CEO of my own business. Why is that intimidating? And I think we get that a lot. And I think that's why women sometimes downplay what they do, especially women in power and who have ownership of a business or a company or something. And you see it so often.
I feel like I'm hearing myself speak because I tell my students, I teach at the law school here also. It's a top university, ASU Law. I really believe in the program, and I have, female students, and I go out of my way to tell the female students that I admit into the program that, listen, when you go out and practice, when you have a senior partner or a client, don't ever take these tacit comments or almost like not taking you seriously because of your gender. We still see it so much in our profession. Like, you can be the founding partner of your own law firm. You can be the CEO of the biggest law firm you want, or you can do whatever the hell you want. But the point is that there's still a stigma associated with being a female. I know this for sure because I'm a dude, but I still get the stigma associated with being a minority or looking a certain way. And a certain demographics don't get that. They don't understand that that's still a problem. Like, oh, but you're a lawyer. Isn't that a prestigious field? I'm like, well, we still have some of the most backwards people in our professors. In our profession, there's one of my students saying I'm one of the best teachers out there, which I really
amazing.
But I truly believe that mentally, going back to what you do in your coaching programs, people set these glass ceilings in their mind.
Yeah.
Very, very early. And so I was like, you know what, if I can go and teach in a law program where I have access to students and say, listen, all the mumbo jumbo that you see and you hear, throw that away, right? And as a lawyer advising female entrepreneurs who are facing harassment, right, which gets into some of the stuff that I deal with, I'm like, listen, put that away. There's solutions for that, and you have to be very spoken about those problems, because otherwise they're never solvable. This becomes perpetual problems. And I was talking with I had a consultation today, a gal who works for Disney of all places, and she was just telling me, listen, you would not believe how I get treated here. I'm a gal in the media world, and I'm dealing with XYZ. I reported it to HR. They're treating me like this, and I just feel undermined. And I'm more than qualified for my role. And all it's about is, can I get a date with you? And this should be outed. And she fears like going public with it. Obviously, she's talking to me as an attorney, but the problem is, whether it's Disney or it's Fox News or any company, big or small, the reality is this stuff happens, and we need to be vocal about it. And also, it impacts the psyche of a person who's looking to excel, because they start to believe, maybe this is something that's weighing me down. Like, maybe this is a variable that needs to change. Maybe I'll just, hire a guy to be the face of this company, and I'll just fund this initiative. Or maybe I'll just shut my mouth and let these things play out. And so I think the work that you do, particularly with influencers, is great. So tell me, what are some of the struggles that you have had being an influencer in this micro niche, talking about female empowerment and online coaching? What are some of the struggles that you have faced in getting to where you are and growing perhaps to the next phase of what you want to do?
I think definitely one of the biggest things is blocking out all of the noise. There's so much, and blocking out the comparison trap. There's a lot out there, and there's a lot of people who not only want to tear you down, but want to tell you what you're doing is wrong, or that your opinion's wrong, or how you operate your business is wrong. And I think one of the biggest things that I have learned and I really owned is, what I am coaching and what I teach, I truly believe in. I truly believe in, not only for myself, but I've seen the results with my clients. I've seen the results with my friends and my loved ones. So I know it works, and I know that I practice what I preach. That's a big thing for me. Like, I need to be able to do it. But you need to be able to block out everything that's coming in from other coaches or other influencers or other people that you're seeing. And, I get a lot of DMs, throughout the week, and people who are, fortunately, a lot of the time, people who are praising me or love what I do. But then you have other people who will question what you put up on your story, or question the post that you made. And it's like, okay, but I disagree with this. Here's a different perspective. And I love taking on different perspectives, because I love understanding the world through different eyes, whether you're female, whether you're male. But it doesn't mean that I have to agree with that. And people on the internet, they're savage. They want you to agree. They want you to say, yes, no, agree with me. What I'm saying is right. And I'm just not someone who's like, who will just bow down and agree, you know? And I think that's one thing that I've definitely am very strong in my word. And when I believe in something, I will make that stance. And I think that's a point of difference that I see with myself in comparison to a lot of people out there, is that sometimes you got to take what people say to you with a grain of salt, and you got to believe in yourself enough that when someone comes at you, to be like, okay, thank you so much for your opinion, but this is still what I believe. And I think, you know, that's one thing I've learned with, I host my own podcast, is with certain things that I speak about, I do sometimes put a disclaimer, and I like, because there's always one person who's going to come at you. And I always say, you know what, this is my experience, this is my opinion, you can disagree, but this is all about me. So I definitely think, you know, that is a big side of things as well.
You know, it's interesting that you say that people like to moderate content posted by other people, which is a source for a lot of why people come to me, right? And so, as you can imagine, in the world of online defamation and online harassment, especially with influencers, people tend to think, oh, well, they have so many followers, or they're so confident, nobody probably says anything to them. But totally not true.
Yeah.
And for that matter, I would say it's even worse, because you become a target. And the kind of stories that I hear are unbelievable. The kind of harassment and online torture, if you will, that people face because of their opinions, and because people want you to change your opinion. And I'm not talking about people that are making up lies. You know, obviously, if you, like, a common problem I see is, well, I made this statement. Let's say, you know, Jess is responsible for XYZ problem. I used to be her boss, or I used to work with her. She's a liar. She's a fraud. She's a cheater. Those words have implications. They have real world implications. Your followers will hear that. People who do business with you hear that. But on the world of online media, we don't think that those things have repercussions.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, people think that you're just entitled to spew your opinion into the ether of the internet, and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I can tell you is it's absolutely not okay. There are options, and very few people, even lawyers, realize what options there are available for somebody that's being defamed online or harassed online, or whose online campaign is being derailed by somebody who continuously is posting these false or malicious attacks. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but I know people that have pulled campaigns because every time they comment or they post on their campaign, somebody that's a hater comments on it below with something that says this person is a fraud, or I bought their program, I've paid them money, and they don't know what to do. You know, they don't know what they're doing. Don't buy or don't do business with them, right?
Yeah. I just can't fathom, like, I just can't fathom having such a strong negative opinion and putting that on in public, on someone's picture or post, or even DMing them, and being so cruel, and just wanting to get at them in so in like such a bad way. Like, I can't fathom that. Like, there are things that I see on a daily basis that come up and I don't agree with, and I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't align with my values. But there is no part of me that is like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the profile, message them privately, and rip them to shreds. There is no part of me. And so when I see stuff like that, and when I see how nasty people can be, and how cruel, because people are cruel on the internet and are bullies, it blows my mind. And, you know, I've even had DMs where in my request I haven't responded, you know, not to segregate men, but it's been from men, and I just haven't responded. I don't need to respond, and they will literally send more DMs and tell me how much of a bad person I am because I haven't responded. And that just blows my mind, because I'm like, does that really make you believe that I'm going to respond to that? Like, why are you doing that, you know?
You know, it goes back to, I think, what you were saying earlier, where people have this belief that they have an opinion, that you have to listen to it,
Mm.
and you have to be okay with it. Like, they're entitled to voice it. And especially with online, like, at least you're talking about, messages that you get in a DM, which is private,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Imagine when this happens, and I don't know if this has ever happened to any of your clients or you, but if it's posted publicly, like on their
Mm.
Facebook page or directly on their Instagram page or in a comment. I had a situation once with a client who's in the art world, and a woman actually made allegations, which turned out to be false. They were exaggerated. But she posted them in her stories, and she tagged this guy's clients.
Mm.
And so I mean, you can't unwind that. You
Yeah.
can't unring that bell, And so people come to me, and just like I'm telling you, we'll have this consultation, and I give them their options, and I tell them, look, Australia actually has really good defamation laws. They're very strong. I think they're even stronger than US laws. There's not so many exceptions. But people who are watching in the United States, I mean, first thing we do is oftentimes we send a demand like, this is why this is false. You have to take it down. You have to then post a public statement that is an apology. Like, usually we try to resolve it that way before we just run to the courthouse and sue. But it's becoming a larger problem on a day-to-day basis. We're hearing about it all the time.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that fine line between it's the internet, everyone's entitled to the opinion, and those lines kind of blur, and people take that too far, or people don't have common sense and respect for another person.
So going to your online coaching, are you coaching entrepreneurs on how to kind of start, or are you mainly coaching mindset related
Mm.
topics?
So I actually have a range of both right now. At the beginning, about a year ago, it was more so your modern day female mindset, all of that. And now I've taken on board, I have a couple of private clients who I'm helping transition into, beginning a business and the foundation, which is great because I love the mix. I love taking that modern day woman, and she's struggling with a mindset, she's struggling to really get from A to Z of where she wants to be, but then it's nice to switch to that really logical mind, because that's more the emotional side. It's nice to switch to the logical mind and help someone see someone's vision and help them get it off the ground. And I think, at the end of the day though, even with that side of things, that's all about your mindset, that's all about your limiting beliefs, and how you are, I guess, setting up your day and your goals and all of that. So it's really nice to have a mix of both.
So it's kind of like converting the mess of where do I start, what do I do, into actionable components,
Yeah.
and then being an accountability partner to help them get through those things.
Yeah.
And then when they hit the hurdles, especially the emotional hurdles, how to stay focused with the right mindset, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because I tell my employees and I tell my law students the same thing, which is mindset is like 90% of the start, right? And it's 90% of the finish. What happens in between is different. But if you are not mentally there, if you are not focused on the why you're doing something, you lose it, right? Am I saying it right?
Yes, that is so true. I think what we often forget is our mind is 90% subconscious and 10% conscious. So everything that feeds into that conscious mind is coming from your subconscious, and your subconscious does not know the difference between what is actually right and what is actually wrong. So whatever you tell it, whatever you take in from external circumstances, whether that's an experience, whether that's an interaction with a person, and you feed that to your subconscious mind, it's going to say, okay, that's correct. Now let's feed that into our conscious mind, which again results in our behaviors, our reactions, our emotions, our feelings, everything we see in our external world. And your mindset is the basis of your reality. Your mindset it governs everything that you see in your external world. And that's what people often forget is, if you want to change something in your life, if you want to make a difference in whether that's relationship, whether that's finance, whether that's with your family, workplace, whatever it may be, you need to start to look at what is happening in your mind. And I think that one thing that I am so passionate about when it's with my coaching is there is a lot of airy fairy crap out there on the internet about mindset. There is so much. And yes, admittedly, we've all consumed it, you know, we've all read stuff and listened to things. I come at it at an approach where you actually get to a place of where you understand how your mindset works and you understand what you are actually doing to change and how you can make that change. And like you said, having a why, if you are not connected emotionally to wanting to change something and to get somewhere in life, if you don't have that emotion attached to your why, it won't work. And that is a
Mm.
big thing for me. Like everything you do, and everyone that is watching live now and everyone that watches the replay, start to think like, what do you want in your life? How do you want to make a change? And ask yourself, like, what is my actual why? Why am I invested? Why is this important to me? Am I emotionally attached? Because if you don't have emotion behind that why, you won't get very far, and your mindset and your limiting beliefs are just going to pull you down.
You know, it's interesting what you said. I want to just capture it for a second, which is the subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between the reality of what things are from what you tell it they are, which is exactly what trauma victims struggle with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so people
Yeah.
who have had traumatic, physically
Mm.
traumatic, emotionally traumatic experiences, there's a trigger point that's irreversible. They cannot tell the difference between, hey, am I drowning again, or is it just raining and my brain is telling me that I'm going back to the moment where I almost drowned as a kid,
Mm.
right? Or if you're insecure, or you know, you struggled with insecurities practicing law or being a business owner or getting up in front of somebody and pitching and trying to raise capital for your business. And all these traumas come back, right? Everybody has their insecurities. You know, I had mine growing up,
Mm.
right? And I can tell you that the mindset of how you approach those issues makes a world of a difference. And I'm sure you get these questions a lot from your female clients, which is, you know, Jess, how are you so confident? Or how
Mm.
did you get through,
Mm.
you know, XYZ issue and be successful? And I think that's exactly what you said is what I wanted to highlight, which is you tell yourself the reality that you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's so, so true.
and then start practicing it. And then you help them kind of hold their hand through the steps of how to get there, right?
Yeah. 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 That's exactly. And I always say whenever I take on my private clients, I'm a very hands-on coach, and I will give you tough love. Like I'm a tough love coach, but I am not going to give you all the answers. I'll give you the guidance. I'll give you, you know, the resources, but there needs to be an accountability on your end. And yeah, it comes down to when you are wanting to make a change in your reality and when you are wanting to do something different and be different, there is just not enough that emphasis on the reality that you feed yourself and what you say to yourself every single day, how you act every single day. And, you know, people, we've all been, you know, in a place where it seems too hard to get to a happier place. We've all dealt with trauma. And it's funny you bring that up. I was hosting a 3-day challenge on my free Facebook group last night. And one of the points that we were talking about were triggers and trauma. And I said, trauma, I think a lot of people, and especially now on social media, there's a lot coming up about trauma. But what I think people believe trauma is something that is huge, like PTSD from the war or physical abuse in a relationship. That is one part of trauma. But trauma can be the smaller things, like breaking up with a short-term partner, having to put your pet down, these small things, you know, and I think that it's important to bring an awareness that trauma is all of the things that have altered your reality and how you see your reality in some way, shape, or form. And I was saying last night is if you want to make a change, you need to be able to address that trauma head on, which ultimately is your mindset and how you're reacting to that, to be able to say to yourself, to create that self-trust that, okay, I trust myself enough to work through this and I'm going to be better from that. And, you know, I think when you're dealing with trauma, obviously dependent on what the extent is it is a long-term process. It's not someone, I get a lot of women come to me and they want to change their mindset like that. They want it to happen overnight. They want it to happen in a week. And when you are predispositioned to think and act a certain way, and you've been doing that for a long time, that will not change in a day, in a week, in a month. That is going to take time. But where people fail is they start and then they have one bad day where they have a shitty mindset, and they, face some obstacles and they think, oh, well, I'm a failure. That's too hard. I can't do that. And it's like, and they believe, I can't ever think a bad thought. And that is the complete opposite. That the biggest thing is understanding that you're not your thoughts. Allow those negative thoughts to come and let them go. And know that you're not them. And then start to ask yourself, okay, well, who do I want to be? Asking what your why is. And if it's important enough, and this is what I always say, if it's important enough to you, you will work through it and you will put in the work. And that's the difference between someone who succeeds in life, in whatever your version of success is, to someone who has been doing the same thing on repeat for years and years and years.
It's interesting, the sources of trauma that you were talking about. I think a lot of people don't realize until they're far into their profession the kind of trauma that they actually faced from their own family.
Yeah.
Right? We don't talk about that as much.
No.
And your background and the culture you come from and the culture that I come from, very similar, right? Asian cultures tend to be very, very tough on their kids. And it produces a lot. We love our parents, but it produces the kind of trauma that's difficult to crawl out of. And you carry it with you through your, education, higher education, your early career in your business. And sometimes you hit a wall and like, why am I like this? And it doesn't take until, you have some deep conversations with yourself or somebody like you where you're picking it apart deliberately. And then you realize, you know what, I'm this way because I was wired this way. Because XYZ person or parent, or like you said, partner, whatever, caused me to believe that this is my reality. When actuality, this is who I really am, or this is what I can be. I'm not limited to this. And I think insecurity is number one thing. I think parents, parents are good at making their children insecure.
Yeah.
And it's not even, I'm not even saying it with, malice. It's not that there's a wrong intention. I think it's just the way things unfold, and we kind of have to unlearn that. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, if you were struggling, I always say this, if you're struggling to function in any form of relationship, romantic, platonic, workplace, if you struggle to function in different social experiences, always look at your childhood. And, I've had this conversation with someone and they said, well, I didn't have a bad childhood. My family, my parents stayed together. They didn't get divorced. We had money, had food on the table. And I said, yeah, but then that's the other type. It's like you got given everything. You got too much. You were wrapped in a bubble. And so there's both aspects, but always look back to your childhood. Look at how you functioned in your family. Look at the values that you grew up with. Look at what your parents were telling you. And one thing, and this is fresh because I was doing a bit of a money mindset training with one of my clients, and we're working on rewiring that. And she's like, she was saying, oh, I don't know, I can't really remember where this came from. And I literally said, we need to look at your childhood. What are the things that your parents were saying or that you told yourself? And it came to the root of, her parents would always say, you got to get a job, you got to work hard for your money. And got to work hard. Money will only come if you work hard. And she's like, I never really thought that I took that in. And I was like, exactly. But you believe that you have to go out your way to get money, right? And she goes, yeah, I kind of do. And, that's just a small example. Like that was all the way back in her childhood from as long as she could remember. And we think, these small things don't impact us, but that has literally impacted. She is 29. That has impacted the way that she manages money, her attitude in her workplace, her attitude to not want to start her own business because she thinks it's too hard to make money. And this is the thing, is we have to go so far back and it's about being honest being honest, it doesn't matter whether you came from a traumatic childhood or one with such a loving family. You need to ask, like, what were your parents saying to you? What were your brother and sister saying to you? What were the environment that you grew up in, and how has that affected you right now?
You know, I personally believe that unlocking what's dangling in your subconscious mind is a tremendous improvement to your life as a professional. You
Mm,
know, even people who are already successful in their own right,
mm,
they may not have the success that they want, right? We always tie success, like you said earlier, success is what you make it or what you want it to be.
mm,
It's not always monetary. It could be anything. It could
yeah.
be independence, right?
Mm,
But I feel like, you know, I've realized that unlocking what's going on in your subconscious is a significant contributor to moving forward in the direction that you want to go.
mm,
And you know, in my firm, we post every Wednesday. We have a Wednesday wisdom, and I post a personal quote. It's usually something that I've made up that was dangling in my mind.
mm,
And Rachel will say, "Hey, we need a Wednesday wisdom," but it's always about mindset. I've noticed
mm,
3/4 of my posts are about. They're not like tips. They're not like hard
mm,
tips. They're about, hey, go back to what's going on up here. Focus on that, and get your head straight. And here's how you do it. And
mm.
people love that. I feel like so many people react positively to mindset. And something else, you tell me if you agree with this. Do you believe that, you know, you can attract a type of energy in people when you help them correct their mindset? Like when you convey that, hey, this is a mindset that I have, this is a mindset that you should have, you almost change their energy, like who they become. And there's
Yeah,
sort of a magnetic effect.
yeah, no, definitely. And I think, when you look at it scientifically, we're obviously all energy, right? Everything around us, we're energy, we're atoms. And once you start to neurologically alter how you view yourself and how you view reality, you are ultimately vibrating at a different frequency because
Mm.
your energy is now different. And you are
It's
going to, and this is,
metaphysical.
yeah, exactly. And this is how people bring into their reality what they desire and what they dream, is because it's all about the state of mind. You start to rewire that, you start to put emotion behind those beliefs and truly believe it, because there's no point doing mindset work and trying to change what's happening in your head if 10 seconds later you say to yourself, oh well, that's not true, oh that will never happen. Because like I said, your subconscious mind then latches onto that, and it's like, okay, well that's never going to happen for you, right? And that's where people make the mistake. It's truly believing that what you want and how you can be is out there. It's there. It's a reality. It's everything that you conceive as possible can be a reality. And I think, it's so rewarding for me when I get to the end of working with a client, and or actually even throughout, you just see the difference in how they present themselves and how they react and how they behave in certain circumstances, because their energy has literally changed, because they've neurologically wired themselves to be different, and they are attracting. And I had one client a couple of months ago. She goes, Jess, I walked into a coffee shop. We were about halfway through our one-on-one coaching, and she goes, we were 3 months in, and she goes, I walked into a coffee shop, and this lady, just this random lady, I was waiting for my coffee, comes up to me, and she goes, hi, I just wanted to say you are glowing, you look beautiful, and I thought I'd just give you a compliment. And no one she ever knew. And she goes, that has never happened to me. She's like, but I feel like I'm glowing and I feel so different. And I'm like, because energetically you are, and people are attracted to that. And it's like when you are not in a mindset that you want, you are going to be, it's like a dark cloud, right? You're not going
Hmm.
to attract the things that are good and positive. But when you are on a different vibration and you are thinking differently, you are acting differently to whatever your version of success is, like we said, you are going to attract those things, and people notice, people pick up on energy.
You know what's interesting is, I'll tell you one anecdote. It's positive and it's negative. I am always telling people in my office, like when I answer the phone, when my admin calls me, when Rachel calls me, when my partner, in my law firm calls me, I always greet them in a high note
Mm,
instead of like, hey.
mm,
It sounds stupid, but people pick up on that. Like, say, how's it going? Hey, what's up? even if I'm deep in thought on something and I'm not intentionally trying to be like a downer, it's very easy when you're in deep contemplation to forget everything. And when somebody interrupts you to be like, hey, I'm in the middle of something. But I make it a point, and I notice it impacts the way they respond to me. Right?
Yeah,
Or,
no. Yeah.
or when I speak with somebody in a consultation, which is, you know, telephonic usually with my clients all over the country, all over the world, I tell them something about something they wrote in their intake form. Like, hey, I really like the way you said this. Or, hey, I noticed you're from this town. I'm actually from a town 20 minutes away. And it's suddenly like when you and I first spoke, it was like, I actually have a client in Perth. And it kind of changed the energy a little bit, right? It's not just, yeah, it's another person that wants to talk kind of a thing. Here's one interesting anecdote that's somewhat on the negative, but I rarely like to fire people. I rarely fire people. I had somebody at my law firm at a point in time where she was just too negative. I mean, way too negative. Like to the point where she said something to a client, and the CEO called me, and he was like, this has never happened to me in business in 20 years that somebody spoke to me this way, and your person from your office spoke to me that way, and I fired her. But what's funny is when I sat her down and I explained to her why, you know what she said to me, Jess? She said, you've been very respectful. You've been a good employer. I know I'm a bitch. Those were her words. And I said, I would never say those words to you. I told her, I said, I would never say those words to you. Those are your words. But I'm glad you acknowledge what the problem is.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you call it like it is. But
exactly.
Let me ask you, and then I know our time is running short here. Do you have any good resources or any good audiobooks that you like to listen to help people with, you know, mindset training, aside from the wonderful resources that you like to offer? What's a good way to break into this?
My favorite book, hands down, and I literally think I read it about 3 times a year for the past 5 years, is The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. That is a game changer. It is one of the best books, best resources, and I'll always refer back to it, right, if I need a mindset check. Another good resource is Joe Dispenza. All of his resources, his books, especially Becoming Supernatural. It really dives in deep to what we were saying about, you know, how you vibrate energetically and neurologically wiring. I think is so good. Another powerful resource that I love, I forgot the author, but it's Atomic Habits.
Oh my God, that's on my list. I was going to mention that to you. Whether you've heard, that's an amazing book of how he goes through, the author goes through a transformation. He gets hit in the face. He, you know, clocks, you know, is unconscious for who knows how long in the hospital, loses his eye, right? And goes through this whole phase. I love that book. I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
It's an amazing book. Yeah. And I've read that a few times over and over again. I think there's just so much value, and it's one of those, it is one of those books that you should read a few times because you take different things, and especially at different parts in your life. That's why I like to reread good books, say like every year or every couple of years, because depending on where you're at in life, you would pick up on different things. So what's the name of the book? Atomic Habits. It is by, I have my laptop. I'll look up the author because I can't remember. But yes, definitely, Atomic Habits by James Clear. That is the author.
You know, another good one is, I'm looking at, James Clear. One of the key things that he talks about, which you sort of mentioned also, was, you know how you coach on incremental changes. One of the first things he says is, which resonated with me, was the small habitual incremental changes, that 1% change you make in how you think and how you do things over time, it has this compounding effect, which I love. I absolutely love that principle.
I think that's so important, and people don't understand. Like I I have this concept I share, and it's called no 0 days. And it means never have a 0 day where you don't do something towards
Love it.
where you want to go. And it can be as simple as you get to 11:30 at night, you've had a shitty day, and you are in the midst of trying to write a book. Just write one sentence. That is a
Yep.
no 0 day. And because the difference between writing that one sentence, you've had a crap week, but you write one sentence for the whole week, that's 7 more sentences you've done towards your goal than just having a whole week off. And I think it's so important because, like you said, and like this book brings up, it's a compounding effect. Like imagine working towards your dream 5 minutes each day. That's 35 minutes more by the end of the week that you've worked towards something than doing a whole week of nothing. And people don't understand the power in that. And people may come back and be like, well, it's only 35 minutes. But I'm like, yes, it's 35 minutes. You work towards your dream and your version of reality. And that's how you get the ball rolling.
So many people have this paralysis by analysis. They think that the first iteration of whatever they do has to be amazing and earth-shattering. Like you said, you get on your stories and you're live. You know, you just finished your workout. You're in the middle of this thing and it's raw, but you're doing it, and that's part of your habitual, you know, message, and it improves your message, and it trains you, right? And I think all of us suffer from that to a certain degree, especially in professions like law. But getting out there and doing it and taking a swing is the most important thing. I have one that I'll recommend to you. You may have read it. Principles by Ray Dalio.
I read this year. Great book.
Amazing book.
Yeah.
I take notes when I read just because I'm a nerd. It helps me process, and I like to look back at things later. And I've written so many notes on Ray Dalio, but I would recommend that to all of your listeners and people watching.
Great book. I'm actually reading a book. I think I have it around me at the moment. It's a little bit, it's like a blend of strategy and energy, and I'd really recommend. It's called Spirit Hacking by Shaman Durek, and it literally says keys to reclaim your personal power, transform yourself, and light up the world. It is just a phenomenal understanding of who we are as human beings and all of the things that we take in externally. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that book as well. I'm on to my second read because it's one of those books where you need to read back to back again to kind of take in. But yeah, good resource as well.
So if people want to get in touch with you and get more involved in your coaching, especially the female entrepreneurs, how do they find you and how do they sign up and what's your process?
Definitely come on over to my Instagram at Jess Pinili. Everything is in the link in my bio, but I'm a huge fan. I love connecting with as many people as I can. So slide into my DMs. That's the best way. I love sending voice messages and having a convo. So if you have any questions, any questions about coaching, about anything we've spoken to today, definitely best thing, slide into my DMs. Let's have a conversation.
And one of the things that I'm going to do for your online influencers is I'm going to send you what I created. It's an FTC, U.S. Federal Trade Commission guideline for people who do online marketing. I would love to share that with you so that you can share it with your people who would love to see how to improve their game in advertising without getting nailed by the FTC. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but on our next call, we will definitely talk about some pro tips with advertising and navigating the legal waters of being an influencer.
Amazing. Yeah.
Well, this is great. I really appreciate you booking your morning. Everybody here in the United States is preparing for Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to getting a good workout, to be honest with you, since I don't have to work all day. So I'm a foodie anyway. Like my personal Instagram page is all food. It has nothing to do with law. It's all food.
Amazing.
But I'm looking forward to getting that reset button opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I bet. Well, happy Thanksgiving. And this has been an amazing live. So much value.
Thank you very much. It was just great to get to know you a little bit better. And I'm looking forward to the next one.
Me too.
In the meantime, stay safe, and we'll talk with you soon.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Jess.